I'm Andy Wolf. For those that don't know, I founded this company, 10 years ago now with two of my boys. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, and I've been doing this entrepreneurial gig for about 45 years now, which is just crazy. But love the whole world of entrepreneurism and teaching this stuff to people. So that's why we started Flight Club and the Drone Brother University. So welcome. Tonight's agenda, I'll quickly go through for those that are new who Drone Brothers is and why we're in business. Give you a quick overview of our nationwide pilot affiliate program. We'll have a quick break for Q&A. We'll then talk about entrepreneurship principle number 4 called Give It Away. And then we're going to spend most of the time tonight with Dario, talking about building a successful video editing business. And then at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A. So quick background for those that don't know who Drone Brothers is. Like I said, we've been in business starting our 11th year now. We're a leading provider of nationwide drone services to many of the largest general contractors around the country. And with that, we also provide these services to their clients, which are the Amazons, the Home Depots, the Costcos, the Top Golfs, and the Targets of the world. In fact, every client on the right-hand side, we're actually currently flying at least 1 or 2 projects for all these clients right now on behalf of the general contractors. And why we're successful in this space? Well, a couple things I'll go over. Number one, we provide nationwide services. So it doesn't matter to us whether a job is in Albuquerque or Tallahassee, Florida. We've got pilots, part of our network, in every major market across the country. There's never been a job that we've not been able to fill an order for. If we don't have a pilot there already, to be able to find a pilot. The win for our clients is we're a one-source solution. They make one phone call and they get all their drone flying, mapping, video editing, marketing needs, all done through one company. We provide a consistent deliverable every time across all of our projects. We're insured. Most drone companies carry $1 million policy. We carry a $2 million policy. We obviously are Part 107 certified. We use the latest technologies and software. We're very proud of all the reviews, where I think we're up to about 75 or 76 5-star reviews now. And probably most importantly, we understand the construction industry. We're flying hundreds of jobs monthly, and we specialize in construction, so we understand that industry. And I believe we're nationwide leaders in that space as well. Those that don't know our affiliate program, the whole idea behind the affiliate program is we believe that we should have a two-way relationship with all of our pilots. Most of you know from being in this space that most of the drone service providers out there have a one-way relationship with their pilots. The pilots sit around waiting for an order to come in, and if they get an order, they bid on a quote, they bid on it, and I call it a race to the bottom, because they're on the droners.io. I get nothing against those people. I don't even know anything about them, or the drone bases of the world. They put projects out there, people bid on them, and it's a one-way thing. You bid on it, the lowest bid wins, and that's the extent of the relationship. We believe in establishing a two-way relationship with our pilots, because we see you guys as valuable assets and valuable partners for us. We want this to be a two-way relationship. And the idea behind the affiliate program is it gives you the ability to take and submit a lead into our network so that you can get paid for, and you can offer your clients the ability to offer nationwide services. Because what we learn as we grew up in this space, and what we hear from our pilots all the time is, I'm a pilot in San Diego, California, and I'll drive an hour or so from my home office to go do a job. If there's a job in San Francisco or a job in LA, I'm probably not going to drive 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or get on a plane to service somebody. And wouldn't it be cool to be able to say to my client, hey, I offer these same services nationwide? And for those of you who are probably bored of my example of this, I'm going to just go through it real quickly. This is why we started this affiliate program. We're in Detroit. We got a call one day about 2 years ago from a client in the UP, or potential customer in the UP in northern Michigan. And they called because they found us on Google, and they had they're in the dock. They make docks for yacht clubs and marinas. And they found us on Google because we were closest to this one Grosse Pointe Yacht Club in Detroit. asked us if we could go fly and get pictures of their latest docks that they just installed. And we said, yes, we could. Gave them a quote. But before I hung up the phone, very first thing, and again, if you guys take nothing away from this call, but this one point, the first thing I said to this potential client was, hey, by the way, if you need help outside of Detroit, we do this work nationwide. And I want you guys as pilots to be able to say the exact same thing and be able to back that up and be able to offer nationwide services. And what happened was this turned into 5 separate jobs for us, because I literally heard an audible pause on the phone from this client. And he said, wow, that's fantastic to know, because my next call was to do a Google search for someone up in Wisconsin on Lake Michigan for another marina, someone in Chicago. I need someone in Toledo, Ohio. He needed the docks captured on 5 other job sites or 5 other marinas. And we were able to take that pain point away from him by saying, we can do this anywhere in the country. And we turned 1 job into 5 jobs. And then even more important than that, we then turned that from a pictures only job to pictures, and we convinced him to do videos to use on his website and social media. And he turned into a really nice client. And we don't have any kind of magic potion here or formula. You guys can do the exact same thing yourselves by simply offering to put this into the affiliate program nationwide. Gives you the ability, you're not just giving us this order and you're done with it. You're putting this order into our system, and you're getting paid for submitting this order. You're getting paid a commission for as long as that project is going on. So if it's a 1-year project on a construction site and we're flying it 2 or 3 times a month, you're getting paid for every one of those jobs outside of your market. If there happens to be a job in your market that you want to refer to the system, you get to fly it, you get paid for flying it, and you get paid a commission for bringing it into the network as well. So that's the basics of the pilot affiliate program. This month's entrepreneurial principle tip, we're up to number 4. And the tip of the month is to give your services away for free. And again, we learned this early on, and here's what I mean by that. And here's how we use this tip ourselves on a regular basis. In fact, we just did this we were just out in Colorado training, and Mason's on the call here. Mason just joined our team. I was in Colorado last week, and we did this on a grocery store, big, huge grocery store website, a grocery store construction site. And we kind of wowed the superintendent and the project engineer by doing this. So head out to a job site, capture some photos, capture panos, capture a map, because what you're going to find in this space is most construction people know that drones take pretty pictures, but most of these guys have never seen a panel before. So even if you do the pictures and panos only, most of them have never seen maps before. If you do a free capture of all the services that you offer, there's nothing better for them to be able to see their own site. I can show them 100 other sites that we've done for people as examples, but when they see their own site, it becomes real to them. So go out and capture. It gets you a foot in the door, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot of money or time to do that. The second thing that we do with free captures is every job that we bring in, if someone signs up for our basic service, we call it our coach class service, would be considered the bronze service. If they sign up for our coach class service, which is photos only, by default, we're going to tell our pilot, hey, look, we'll pay you a little extra. Go out and besides the photos, go out and get some video, go out and get some maps, do the panos, do everything for this client on the first flight, and let us wow them. So we give them a free upgrade to the next level of services. They don't know we're doing this, and then we share that with them. And again, I don't know what percentages, I would say 6 times or 7 times out of 10, they'll usually say, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't know you guys do those videos. How much extra does that cost? Or wow, those maps are really cool. They'll ask the question, how much does that cost? And when you tell them the price difference, 6 times out of 10 or 7 times out of 10, they'll just say, wow, that's great. Let's move on to that for the next shot that we do. So you might be giving something away from your time and maybe some processing time, but it usually ends up leading to more business. Along the same lines, think big. When you're if you're going to go out and try to win some business for new clients, you're going to give something away, spend your time on really large, successful companies. I used to do this early on. We'd go out and take anyone on board. We'd find a construction job. It could be a one-person operation, or we'd find a real estate company that'd be a two-man operation, and we would take any business on we could. Now, I wish I can go back in time. You can't, but today we're more selective. So learn from us. Be more selective from day one. If you're going to go after and give something away for free, find the most successful guy in town. Find the most successful real estate agent, the most successful commercial real estate person, or one of the most successful construction companies in town. Don't give it away to a two-person operation. Give it away to a 100-person operation, because it takes just as much time practically to win over a two-person company as it does a 100-person company. And try to find a company that's got a national footprint, because if you can win them over by giving something away in your local market, and that could lead to other markets long-term, it's going to lead to a bigger win for you as well. And my other advice for you would be focus on industries that need recurring drone services. And that's why we're in the construction space. Construction is construction, things like solar inspection, things like inspection of wind turbines. These are recurring inspections that have to happen multiple times during the year. But I really don't know of any other industry besides construction where you could get 2 flights a month, 4 flights a month over 12 or 18-month period of time. It's a lot of flying. So focus your time on industries that are doing recurring drone flights versus a commercial real estate guy that might give you one job every 6 months and you never hear from them again. Along the same lines, by doing something for free or by doing something for reduced cost on a job, you get into that company's system. And once you're in their system, it's a lot easier to get the second, third, and fourth job. Because even if you say to them, look, normally I charge this amount of money for the job, but I'll do it for you guys for half off, or just something to get in the door, they're going to need to get you set up with a W-9. They're going to need you set up in their accounting system. They're going to get you set up in their CRM. Once you're in their system, it's a lot easier to get the next job from them set up. And once you're in, we do this all the time, just assume the role of being their provider, their nationwide provider. Once you're in with any client we get, our first job, we just assume that we are it. We're their nationwide provider. We're it for all jobs going forward. And then use tools like LinkedIn, and use tools like go to their website and look up who the other people are on their team, so you can then add other key stakeholders from that company into your CRM, and then you can continue marketing to their company as if you are their approved vendor, drone company or drone vendor of choice. And again, if you do that, assume the sale and assume you're it will eventually just become so, and you'll get their second person in the company, and you'll have these assets that you captured on the first shoot to be able to share with the next person in the company as examples. And again, they love to see examples of their own work with their own logos. That's it for entrepreneurial principle number 4. Does anyone have any examples of that they've done this themselves, or questions about this tip?
Yeah, Andrew, I've done quite a few in the Jacksonville area. A lot of construction going on. I just go by a site, I'll fly it, usually on a weekend over there, and then I'll get some contact information, send them out. And I've been using the 21 uses for construction as a attachment, and just haven't been getting any replies or anything. And it's really hard working a full-time job and doing this part-time, so I can't go meet people at the trailer during the week, and that's where I'm struggling a little.
Let's talk about some of these struggles. So you go out, you find a construction site, you drive past, you find a new site, you go fly it and capture panos or photos or maps or whatever it is. And then who are you? You then do a little research to find out who is involved in that site and you're just, you email them the stuff?
Yeah, it's usually a cold email with a link to the video or the map. Find out who the project manager is, or the architect, or the owner, if possible.
Okay. And are you just not getting any replies back from them? Are you getting replies, no thank you? Are you, what's
Nothing.
usually the result?
Crickets.
Crickets. So a couple things are happening. Either your email could be going to a spam folder and they never even see it, or again, it could be they could see something coming in, it just they just think it's junk and they delete it. I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Corey. So are you comfortable knocking on a trailer door and walking in, or you just don't have the time for it?
Well, I work a full-time job, so I do this primarily after hours and on the weekends, and sites are shut down on the weekend.
Got it.
There's one or two, that I've talked to, but most sites are shut down.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's a challenge. I mean, my first recommendation is, yeah, if you can find time during the day, during your lunch hour, or it's time when you're not doing your full-time gig, to it's close enough to stop by, knock on the trailer door. I've never been denied access to a trailer. I've never been, if I say to someone, the superintendent, hey, do you have a second for me to show you something? Never had a guy say, no, I don't want to see a panel of my site or a map of my site. So the next step is, if we can figure out how to find time during the day to knock on the trailer door and walk in with an iPad or a laptop and show them, that might be a good solution. If you're not getting any calls, are there any follow-up phone calls, or just an email sent? You don't really even get a chance to make a phone call to these guys because you're probably busy during the day as well.
Yeah, and I actually got trouble at work for working on my business.
Got it.
So
got it.
Has a great question in the chat. I'm seeing she's asking if you've embedded your footage into the email. Do you have it embedded, or do you have a link to the video?
Usually it's attachment.
Got it.
If you don't mind me asking, and I'm sorry, I was just curious, because I know Andy was just talking about the follow-ups, but that's where I was going to go also. If you can't make a phone call for a follow-up, do you have a follow-up type of email set up, or something that you do just to say, hey, I did want to reach out again, like any other type of way to be able to reach out to these people?
Yeah, it's sporadic. I don't have an email campaign set up, or so hopefully we'll get some information on that in a little bit.
Hey, Corey. Sorry, Andy. Hey, Corey, if you don't mind, if you could send me what you're sending out, I can help you structure that maybe, and give you some maybe some recommendations for how to follow up on that, what that sounds like and looks like. Happy to do that if you want to forward that to me.
Yeah, I've been using ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Forward it to me, please.
Yeah, send it to Larry, because that's a good point. There's I think I've mentioned this lady on past sessions here. There's a lady named Sam McKenna, I think is her last name. She used to work for LinkedIn years ago. Now she's got her own company, and there is an art to key. Yeah. Larry's good at this. There's an art and a science to getting key phrases and words in the subject line, and then key phrases and words into the body of the message, so that people see it and they tend to react better to an email rather than thinking of it as spam or junk mail or what have you. So maybe there's a weak way we can help tweak that to make the emails a little stronger.
Roger that.
Okay. Well, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dario from Latari Studios. And just a quick background on Dario. I'm bad with time frame, but Dario, kind of refresh my memory here. I think we've been working together for about probably 5-6 years now, at least. I think you were you were probably a sophomore or a junior in college when we first met, and since then, I'll let Dario tell the story. But he's built up a nice team of video editors. And the reason we're so excited to have Dario here tonight is, not only does he come with the piloting skills, and we think we first met him on that he piloted a job for us. But not only does he do the piloting really well, but he's got the video editing down pat. So there's not a lot of times you find someone out there that does both of these things really well. So we wanted to pick Dario's brain tonight on a few things. We're going to talk about how to tell a story on a construction site, so tips for capturing great footage. We're talking about some video editing basics, and then if we have time at the end, we're going to talk about having fun with your drone, because all work and no play is not a good thing. So we got to figure out, how do we use our drone after hours or on weekends, or when we take trips together to capture really cool nature shots. And Dario, a couple of videos to show you that Dario has produced with some fantastic nature videos. So Dario, if you can give us a quick background about yourself, then we'll jump in.
Hey guys, I'm Dario. I haven't done too many of these before, but I'm looking forward to it. And Andy, thanks for having me on.
No problem.
So I am 25 right now, and I got started about 9 years ago. The drone work is really what pulled me in. I was a senior in high school and looking for work. And it so happened to be, I used to row crew in the long boats, and they were looking for a student film. I got connected with a drone pilot and made that for them. And I was very taken with the drones from there. So I quickly turned around, got my Part 107 in 2016, and then took it from there. So since then, got into college. That was great. And then it was a big choice for me. Do I go the film route or do I go the business route? I ended up going business and was very happy with that, because I learned that getting a film degree more or less didn't really help in getting a career in film. So that was pretty big. And when I was in college, I took a semester off with a buddy, and we worked out of a basement for about 10-hour days, 6 days a week. And we got an editing studio up and running, mainly because we were so busy already with our college life and we wanted to continue the business route. And so we only had so much time, and we usually just put in the midnight hours. And that's how we got started. And it quickly turned from that to applying for jobs. And I've been abroad filming periodically too. I had an internship out in Thailand. And so I taught Adobe classes for a while and had an interpreter with me. And then I've also been to Israel and did some filming there. And then just for travel, Norway, which we'll see a video later on. But yeah, I absolutely love working with clients. And then mainly the editing is where my specialty lies now. But I do have a deep history with the drone, and I currently fly a Mavic 3 Pro. So been loving that.
So Dario, did you end up getting a degree in, what'd you study in college? Did you do film, and you took all the video editing course? Where'd you learn the video? Where'd you learn the editing?
So by the time that I got to college, I had already been working with multiple different studios outside of my education. And so a lot of the entry-level classes that I was taking were not as useful to me as they were for the other students, I guess. And I quickly pivoted from there and dropped most of my film classes and picked up business classes because that was extremely interesting to me. And I figured, well, if I'm working with these people professionally outside of school already, that is more or less my education in film. That's where I'm growing my expertise by actually doing the work. And then on top of that, when I'm in college, that's when I'm learning the business side. And so by the time I leave college, which ended up happening, well, I can marry the two together.
Beautiful.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to share let me just play this. If I can play this video for everybody, this is where I take you to a video that Dario flew this, correct? And produced the video, correct? Yep. All right. So this is let me open this up and share my screen here. Then we'll get to some of the tips as far as how this whole video came together. So let me skip and here we go.
No, it's good. It's the last shot.
Perfect.
Nice.
So obviously, at least I think so, fantastic video. Little different than the stuff that we're doing every day with construction. We do a lot of dirt moving, a lot of big construction sites. So
Yep.
you combine up drone, some handheld stuff. So let's kind of take a few minutes to dissect what made that video great, some tips you can give the pilots online here as far as how to capture what things to do to capture and tell great stories on construction sites.
Yeah. So when I get on a construction site and I have the drone up in the air, one of the things that I'm thinking of immediately is my framing. And so in cinema, and you're making any other video, I'm bringing in more of a ground camera tactic here. You have your wide shots, also known as establishing shots. Then you have your medium shots, your mid shots, and then you have your close-up shots. And so it's very easy on a construction site when we're flying a drone to keep it close to 400 AGL, just safe, away from the power lines, and then you're filming everything from there. But what I really found compelling to people is as you are going through the video, not only including those wide shots, but the close shots. And so to me, when I have a shot, there should be a subject in each one of those shots. Maybe motion is that subject is moving, or maybe you have a crane that's moving dirt, or one of the bulldozers that's going forward, something like that draws the eye to it. And so, yes, you have your wide shots that are showing the entire construction site, but then you move up to some mid shots. Maybe you have the structure that's going up, and then you have some of the construction going on in the background. And then finally, some of the close shots, I feel, ties everything together. That's when you can really leverage the energy of the construction that's going on. So I think framing, as far as telling a story on a construction site, is pretty critical. So what we're doing. So you're not just going on a construction site, launching a drone up to 400 AGL, and then flying back and forth. Yes, drone deploy does that pretty well, but this is more geared towards the hand flown type of deal. So
the big takeaway that I got from this, and talking to you about this in the past, is how many people on this call go to a construction site with the primary idea in mind of, I'm about to tell a story, versus just, hey, I got a job to fly, I'm going to send the drone up and just capture some pictures. So I think the big takeaway for me, and hopefully it's for everyone else, is starting off with the story in mind, correct? I mean, what's the
pilots flying bi-weekly or monthly? There's an investment in that time, not only that you're making, but also the monetary that the GC's making on that end. And so the word that comes to my mind is narrative. You're bringing them along on a narrative, because they watch these videos in their meetings. And so as they're placed together, as they're produced in post, if it's more static shots from far away, that you're going to lose some attention there. I agree with that.
Any questions on that for anybody?
All
I have a
right.
question about those handheld shots.
Yeah. What's up, Mason?
What's up, Dario? Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I see in your settings there, it says 4K at 60. Do you do that with your handheld shots as well?
Yeah. So I think the capability I have with the handheld shots is 4K at 30 currently. And so that's what I shoot in. But some camera like a Sony A7S III, yeah, you're going to get a 4K at 60. Or the Mavic 3, yeah, you're going to get 4K at 60 or 5K at 50 FPS. So I think as we move forward with the technology, shooting in 4K is pretty important because people like to see that crispy footage. I think maybe 3-4 years ago, we were pretty locked in at 1080 or 2K at 60 frames, but a lot of the drones we're getting now can pump that frame a little bit higher. And so because of that, you get some silkier footage.
So,
Yeah.
so let's keep talking about the settings since we jumped to that point.
Yeah.
Is there any downfall if the pilots, if we got an internet connectivity issue, this takes too long to upload? 4K footage takes a lot of space on a card. If we
Yep.
don't have space on the card or we get bad connectivity for internet, what would be the fallback setting for, can we do stuff in 1080? What's the fallback setting for?
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I'm filming, 1080 is fine. It just looks a little dated at this point. I'd say 2K at 60. Pretty much every drone that I've interacted with these past few years, every drone can do 2K at 60 frames per second. That's pretty standardized at this point. The file size, Andy, is a concern, but I mean, I have the files uploading the box and I don't touch it.
Yeah.
And so unless you're flying for 8 hours straight, you can get that stuff uploaded at least decently, unless you have poor Wi-Fi. And at that point, yeah, we can have a conversation.
Perfect.
Yep.
And
Go
ahead.
Yeah, another big one too on site is the auto white balance. That there's some contention with this because in some of my formal training, white balance is something that you set no matter what. You get on site and you get a picture lock with your white balance, and then all the other cameras are matched to that white balance. Well, I've almost found in editing at this point thousands of drone videos that custom white balance is almost a trap, because more often than not, when you're going through and setting it, maybe your phone screen is showing you a different tint, or maybe the sun is hitting it just in a way where you can't really tell what's going on, or you're busy setting up the drone. It almost is a breeding grounds for disaster by setting that custom white balance. And as DJI upgrades their color profile and as they're bettering their systems, the auto white balance is becoming very good. Now, one point of differing here would be when you're going inside. I found that to be not always the best with the auto white balance. So I would double check that and then change it when necessary. But it's more of that's the outlier. I would keep it on auto white balance when possible, and then when you need, you can go to custom.
Got it. All right.
Yep.
So bullet point number 2, let's talk about avoiding the traps. So talk to us about what avoiding the traps means, and what are the key things with what's repetition, coffee thumbs, and pilot interference. What does that mean?
Okay. First point, repetition. That's pretty easy. I see a lot of drone footage comes across our plate when we're going through our daily loads. And a lot of what pilots will do is shoot a shot and then go through and shoot it again, maybe at slightly different elevation or from a slightly different speed. And then they'll do it one more time. And it's not super necessary. I think at a certain point when you're flying, you got to trust yourself as a pilot to be able to nail that shot. And then Andy, you were also talking about file sizes too, right? The upload times, while it may not be the biggest deal, but yeah, you can shoot 4K versus 1080, or you can shoot it once and then move on to the next one. And so I think keeping it to one take, you're good to go, you move on. And another big one is, I call the term coffee thumbs. So when you drink coffee, you get pretty jittery, right? Start moving around. There, Corey, I see your hand. And so that translates pretty well to the drone. Not that you're drinking coffee right before and calf up, but I think it also happens naturally when we're trying to do 2 movements at once with the drone. We're really looking for how can we get that smooth footage to be able to translate, again, the subject matter to a client's meeting? And, you know, if the drone is shaking all over the place, that's not exactly ideal. That's just something to look out for. And to, if you're seeing jitters in your footage, limit the motion. So, hey, you're panning and you're moving forward and you're pushing. Okay, there's some jitters there. So instead of doing both of those at once, we can just do a pan, or we can just push in. And that often alleviates that issue if you've been seeing that in your footage.
Good. So question on this. So most of the drones have the normal mode and is it called tripod mode still, or is there a different name?
Oh, mine's called cinematic mode.
Yeah, so
maybe there's tripod
used to be
too.
called tripod mode.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself here. Do you recommend flying in normal mode or cinematic mode? Does cinematic mode take away some of those jitters because everything's
Ooh.
moving slower?
That's a very good question. Okay. So when you are far away from the site, I would always, when you're getting your wide shot, fly in normal mode or even sports mode sometimes, because your subject matter is so far away from the lens of the drone, it will appear to be moving slower. And so you still want to give that good motion. Now, when you're close up, getting your mid and your close shots, if you have cinematic mode, I'd use it, because that's when the foreground and then your subject starts moving faster. And so you can slow it down in that way. Yep.
Beautiful.
Okay. Should we move on to pilot interference?
Yeah. Last one, pilot interference.
Okay. So I have crashed 3 drones in flying 9 years. Only one was absolute failure and it didn't recover from. But every single time that I've crashed a drone, it's been because there were 2 things outside of what I was focusing on, which was the flying I had to deal with. And so I call that pilot interference, or the rule of 2 for myself now. An example of what could interfere with flying would be you're exhausted, you didn't get enough sleep the night before, or you have a construction worker yelling in your ear while you're flying and they're telling you to get off site, or at really anything. The first time I crashed a drone was when I was 16 years old. I was just getting into it. We were flying on the side of the highway and it was pitch black out. So I'm not even sure if we were supposed to be flying in the first place. And a director was yelling in my ear saying, "Oh, you need to get the shot of the semi going." And I was like, well, you know, there's some power lines, but me not knowing or not having learned how to say no yet, I just went ahead and did it. And so it was dark and someone was yelling in my ear. Well, drone crashed. And so I really limit myself to only one thing. No, one stimulus, one interference point. Maybe I'm tired. Okay, I'll fly, but I'll fly a little bit slower because I know and I'm aware of that interference point.
Got it.
So since then, I haven't crashed a single drone.
Knock on some wood over there. Knock on
some wood.
Knock on some wood. Let's jump to. You want to jump to the capturing the nature shots? You want to talk about the editing advice first, Dario?
I think we could touch on editing pretty quickly here. We're pretty much all pilots in this group right now on the call, but I think editing is a whole nother beast. It is a pretty high barrier. It has a high barrier to entry to get into, not so much because of the cost, but the time and the complication in learning. So as you're getting jobs, as you're flying these sites and you bring the footage back, what do you do with that footage?
Well, let's Dario, hold one just real quickly. I want to take kind of a quick poll. I don't have an official poll, but if you guys can go down to the chat box and just send me a quick thing. How many of you, by a thumbs up in the chat box, how many of you edit or want to edit? I guess in the chat box, if you guys can give a quick response back to that, because I'm curious how many people, because it is tough enough having good skills to fly, let alone having to learn Adobe or Final Cut Pro or what have you. It's a tough thing to master both. So everyone give us a quick thing in the chat box of how many of you are editors or want to be editors, because that's interesting to know. Looks like a lot of, I'm getting thumbs up here. So a lot of people edit or want to edit. So good. So I guess my first question to you, Dario, is you've gone this course. You had no editing experience. Can anyone and you look at except for a few people on the screen, we're a bunch of old guys. Most of these pilots are a bunch of old guys. Can you teach an old dog new tricks? Can editing be learned fairly easily, or is that something you're better off outsourcing?
So yeah, I don't want to lie and say it's super easy. It's not. But if you want to commit the time, I think within a couple weeks you could learn the skill. It is something that really anyone can learn, but it takes a specific sequence of practice rounds, some YouTube tutorials that you can do to be able to figure it out. So yeah, I think you can, but it looks like Matt's saying, yes, Adobe crashes the MacBook. That's another prohibitor right there, the hardware. So you need a certain amount of time. You need to know how to learn on the YouTube, and then also you need decent enough hardware to do it.
Yeah, so let's jump down to point number 4. So the hardware. So your recommendation is, if you're gonna, do you have a preference? I don't want to offend Mac. I don't have a fight of Mac versus PC on the call here, but
Yeah,
is a Mac still the best tool for doing editing because there's more software available on a Mac?
yeah. So we use Windows for all of our computers, but Mac is also very powerful. In fact, most of our hardware investment was about 4 years ago, and at that point, Windows was a very good choice. But since then, Mac has released their proprietary chip, the M series, so M1 and M2. Some M3s are going to come out soon. Those are extremely powerful. So really either, but you just got to know, don't buy an older tech piece if you want to get into editing. Like the 2012, Matt, that you were saying, that MacBook, even if it was a Pro, yeah, I can see that crashing with Adobe. You need at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. I would say an SSD, not an HDD that you're running things off of, which would be storage types.
Yeah.
And then the actual chipset would be an M1, or if you're running a Windows, an i7 or better.
And if kind of bullet point number 5, if you aren't going to take the time to get the hardware, to take the time to learn, if you've got no inclination for this stuff, you just gotta, the end game is you got to find a local videographer that you can partner up with that is good at this stuff, that you can offload this work to.
Yeah. Yep. So I found there are two fish here. There's editing houses, and then your local videographers. I would probably steer, if you don't want to do the editing, you don't want to allocate the time to learn it, I would steer clear of just going straight to an editing house. Those guys are typically in bed with some of the higher, like $10,000 to $15,000 productions. And so they expect that sort of payment if you want to embark on a job with them. But the local videographers are more, they take everything. And so if you can develop a close relationship with a local videographer, they know how to edit. They've got the hardware for that. They've got the full service line where they take on the footage. Initially, they do the pre-production planning, and then they deliver the footage, they shoot it. And so it's just one step further for them to say, oh, hey, all we got to do with this drone pilot is edit his footage. And so I think that's the local videographers who you should be reaching out to primarily if you don't want to edit.
We put a couple of links down under resources, a couple of links to for iMovie, if you want to take lessons, for Adobe Premiere if you want to take lessons online, and for Final Cut Pro, we put links to a few different YouTube videos, or Final Cut Pro, there's a company called Ripple Training, which is exceptional at this stuff. But we've got a couple of links here, so we'll share this presentation afterwards with you guys to, if you want to take this on and learn more, some really great resources to get your own self-paced training.
Yeah, can I add one more thing here?
Sure.
I found that the two big ones are Final Cut and the Adobe Suite. So if you want to, learn a skill set with a program that's up to date with whoever else is editing, say you want to transfer project files or work with a team during your editing period, I would go with one of those two. Final Cut, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's the one that you use, and it's more of an upfront cost, right?
Well, Final Cuts, well, they've got a couple different versions. So I'm by no means am I an editor. I've just kind of trying to learn to do this just so I understand it better. But
Yep.
Final Cut's got a version that comes out on an iPad now, and like all Apple stuff, they've really made things simple and they make it easy, really easy people to use. So I think I
Yep.
pay $4.99 a month, $4.99 a month for a license for Final Cut Pro on an iPad. And you can pretty much do everything you need to do to make a nice video on that. So it costs you
Yep.
$60 a year to have a Final Cut Pro license and all the latest tools on it on an iPad. So
Yeah, Adobe runs, I mean, it's way more expensive, but Adobe runs a subscription program as well. I'm sure most of you guys have seen their prices. It's like 50 a month.
Yep.
So it gets pretty pricey to be able to do that. But say you have 3 or 4 jobs coming in, at that point, that cost is COGS, cost of doing business. I see in the chat too, Matt saying $3,000 computer. Sarah says not necessary. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Sarah here on the hardware. I think entry point for editing, in my opinion, is about $1,000 or 1.2. You can get a MacBook with a M1 chip for that cost. Yeah, and I see Sarah's given the refurbished link too. You don't need to spend $3,000. You're more so looking at, hey, you want to edit with a laptop that's 5 or 6 years old that you picked up for $800 a few years ago. That's not going to be able to run the programs.
yeah, so Sarah's right. You can go to Costco. You can go to Costco, and Costco's got Apple. They got the M1 chips. They got the Apple computers, and they're a base computer. They start at $800 or $900 to buy, and you get a few extra hard drive space, which again, in today's day and age, you don't really need. But Matt, you should be able to get for $1,200 to $1,400 tops. You should be able to get yourself a nice M1 laptop, a Mac that would cover everything.
Hey, Mason, would you want to make a pitch quick for DaVinci?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like maybe I'm a little bit of an outlier in that one. I'm actually moving away from DaVinci, or excuse me, away from Adobe. I learned on Adobe, I learned on Final Cut. DaVinci Resolve is an excellent choice for anybody who wants to get into, a more advanced editor. They have a free version. Their studio version provides a lot of unnecessary extensions. So when you're ready to upgrade, you can upgrade, and it's a one-time payment. And I've had a lot of success with Adobe, or excuse me, DaVinci.
Who makes DaVinci? Is it an Apple product?
Blackmagic.
No,
Black-
Blackmagic. Yeah.
Got it.
And they're the one, like, for Hollywood, they're the industry standard for color grading. So if you're
Yeah.
working on a project inside of Final Cut or Adobe, if you're working on something where someone's going to be doing color grading, they'll do the color grading in Blackmagic Studio. And to Matthew's point, how it crashes, Adobe crashes, DaVinci is a great solution. A lot of creators in the YouTube space right now are moving over to that. You can still work compatibly with, like if I started a project in DaVinci, I could export my edits as an XML file and send them over to somebody who's editing in Adobe, and they'd be able to upload my edits because those two file formats speak well with each other.
All right.
Thanks, Dario.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. So I'm gonna keep things moving, but any questions we can, well, let's hold the questions. I want to get to this last section. This is fun. And to me, this is kind of personal. I love this nature stuff, and we all buy drones. We all get sold. You watch these videos that come out on either GoPro videos when they're promoting a new product, or DJI's famous for this. All their videos are beautiful things shot in nature and these gorgeous waterfalls, and it makes you want to buy a drone. I think we all get into this thinking, okay, if I can use the drone to make some money and fly some construction sites or houses, that's one thing. But on the weekends, when I go on family trips, boy, if I could just reproduce and make a cool video like they do on for DJI, wouldn't that be the greatest thing? So I want to spend just a couple minutes on tips for creating really cool nature videos. I'm going to show you guys a video that Dario put together. It's less than 2 minutes long. So let me show this really fast, and then we'll talk about some tips on how he came about making this. So All right, hopefully that came through and you guys were able to enjoy that as much as I've enjoyed that. This is about the 10th time I've watched it. So let's talk. We got a couple minutes here, Dario. Let's talk about I can only speak for myself. That's a cool video. We all would like to make a video like this. And now getting to Norway is one thing, or getting to Switzerland is one thing, but talk to us about if we're going to go take a trip to our local state park, or taking our kids and going up north, or taking our wife and going to someplace around the United States and doing a family trip. Give us some tips or things to keep in mind before you even get to the site, and then kind of what do you do, and what to keep in mind as you're capturing shots like this, because that's a pretty cool video.
Yeah. So when I want to produce a video like that, before I get to a site, I think about the edit already that I'm going to be making. And so, yeah, we have drones for work too, but some of us like to fly for fun. Some of us like to, add that little extra bit to our family outing, right? And to be able to do that while you're out already on a site with your family or on a vacation with some friends, you need to have the end goal in mind before you go out there. So when you're shooting, thinking about where it's going to go into your edit or how the footage is going to be used. I think a common pitfall when you're out in nature or at a state park or something like that is just shooting nonstop and getting tons and tons of footage. But like you saw in the video, I didn't use all too many repeat shots. Used a shot and then went on to the next one. Another big one with these sort of nature videos is framing. Even though we are looking at static a lot of the time in mountains or forest, or even like a road with forests around it, you should have some sort of subject in each shot. So it can't just be an expanse of open environment. And then another thing to think about is leading lines. So like in the picture that you see here, the subject is the cliff top. And then to me, you have leading lines that go up from the right side of the frame and then the left side of the frame. Everything is leading to that focal point. And so, yeah, you can't get that in every single shot that you shoot, but looking for that in your shots is important, because when you line it up, they really pop out. Another one.
But before you, so
Yeah, what's up?
I think the biggest mistake, I think, and I find myself doing this, and you see most drone pilots probably do it. They put the drone up, they turn left, they turn right, they pivot up. There's no framing, there's no subject. It's just kind of a general big picture type shot, correct?
Yeah, that's the sort of environment shooting that I don't think is very compelling. One or two of those shots is fine in a video, but you really want to be subject focused. And I think that's such a hard thing to do with a drone, because it's in the air and you're pretty far away from a subject. And so a lot of your matter or things that you could focus on is flat. But really thinking about how can you create a situation where that three-dimensional shape of your environment can stand out. So foreground, what's near the drone versus what's far away from the drone, those move at different speeds. And then you also have your leading lines like we talked about. So yeah, just trying to set up creative frames like that with subject in mind. That's good.
Got it. Bullet point number 3. This is kind of an important one. Why a one battery max? What's the idea behind that?
So I found that to be a nice rule of thumb, because oftentimes when you're out in these beautiful places, or say a state park, you're not there by yourself. You're there with family, you're there with friends. And so it's a bit of a social experience that you are then introducing your drone to. So everyone's not there for you to fly your drone, but you're doing it as an extra. And so my rule of thumb is, hey, you got your one battery on a site. Once you fly your battery, put the drone away, hang out with everybody. Maybe it will impact the overall product that you're getting from your shoot, but ever so slightly. I think at a certain point, it's important to engage with everybody around you.
All right. Yep. Anything else on here you want to cover?
Yeah, I'll do points 4 and 5. Those are both really quick. Best foot forward In the video, the very first shot that's shown is that hyperlapse pushing into a fjord called Geiringer with the town, and you see the clouds moving in really fast. To me, in my opinion, that was my best shot, and I put that first. I didn't hide that later on in the video. I didn't make people watch a minute of it and then show you that. I think with TikTok being around, with so much consumption on Facebook, it's important to just show your hand, put your best foot forward. And if people want to stick around for the rest of it, great. But at least give them that bite of why they should be watching a video. And then the last one is along the same lines, but shorter is better. I had 100 plus gigabytes of footage, and I used maybe 10% of it when everything was said and done, that edit. And I could make an hour-long video if I wanted to, but no one wants to stick around and watch an hour-long video. So I elected to do a 2 to 3 minute video.
Along with, just remind me of a question regarding construction. So as far as getting clips, do you prefer as an editor to see on a construction site, do you prefer to see 1 10-minute long clip capturing a whole bunch of stuff, or do you want to see 10 1-minute long clips as an editor?
Yeah, as an editor, I know that Drone Deploy already captures that 1 10-minute clip. I don't need, we don't need another one of those, but breaking it up into those 30 to minute long single clips is way better, especially if you have subject in focus. That really makes for compelling footage.
I'll open things up now for questions. And if anyone had put some questions in the chat box that I might have missed, let us know. But if anyone's got any questions, feel free to raise your hand and jump in. We don't often get a chance to talk to a gifted editor like this. So any questions, ask away.
I'll ask a question about your experience with the Mavic 3 Pro. What do you think of your experience? What is your experience with that? Because I recently had it and I sent it back.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. I agree with that decision. Yep. I don't think that the 4.5K price tag on the drone was super warranted. I've worked with a few companies where they did require RAW, and I wouldn't have been able to have gotten those contracts if that wasn't part of the delivery format. And so it really checks that box. But flight capabilities, like the speed, the stabilization, even any sort of Mavic 3 gives you 50 FPS at 5K at this point. So yeah, I'm glad you sent it back.
Sarah, you had a question?
Yeah, it looks like editing mass amounts of the same footage. Are you viewing everything or picking and choosing? I use something called 3-point editing. And so I have one hand, one's on the I key, one's on the O key, and then one's on the period key. And so I do go through, I scrub through every single shot that was captured, but very quickly. And I just choose selects and then place them on the timeline. So then once the selects are on the timeline, then I start manipulating them to the music. But yeah, I do generally look through pretty much every clip.
Question about music. Do you have any preferences as far as music sites to subscribe to, or what's a good source for royalty free music?
Yep. So I use Artlist. Another one's Envato, Elements. They've got some assets. There's a YouTuber, Peter McKinnon. He has another one that he uses. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But there's a few out there. Artlist is grown.
Epidemic Sound.
Yes, that's the one. Epidemic Sound. Yeah. Artlist has grown hugely. And so that's what we've stuck with, and people tend to love that. So YouTube Music, live DJ service. YouTube Music, I didn't know that they gave licensure to use commercially. Okay.
Is that a question or an answer? Or is that a...
Oh, that's something Matt said. Matt said
Okay.
YouTube Music.
Got it. Other questions or comments before we wrap things up?
What are your goals and aspirations for the next 5 years as a
Ooh,
business owner?
that's a good question. So I would like to continue developing a position as an editor, but then also the ability as a lead videographer. I see so many industries out there that are on the verge of getting to that point where they're communicating visually. but a lot of them, I mean, you see the websites, you see the social media that they're putting out, they're not there. And as that wave of social media and that video takes hold, more people are looking for that. I like those positions are opening up. And my dream is to be able to build out a system where you can go to any industry and then within a few years, retrofit their marketing system and implement this video, this visual communication within their business model. And so that can just be done bam, bam, one after the other. And that's what I would like to build, that skill set.
Do you see, so along the same line, where do you see things going with manual video editing, and where does AI come into place in 5 or 10 years? Are you out of a job?
man.
Are you out of a job in 5 years because of AI? Can any company go out and do you think in 5 or 10 years any business will be able to just push a button and get some videos done for themselves and they don't need an editor anymore?
Yeah, I think that's coming. I think at a certain point, just like a lot of the copy that's written in marketing is being dictated by Chat GPT, or at least ideas are coming from that, that sort of parameter set is going to enter into the editing world. But that's why you transition with that sort of tech, because at some point they're going to need people that manage that AI program and how to best utilize it. So maybe this is a little, and this is an oversight, but I almost am not worried about it because I see that as AI is another tool. Take it, stick it in the belt, learn, adapt, and continue forward. I'm using it every single day in Photoshop. That generative fill is an insane game changer. It's been huge.
Nice. Well, Dario, it's been great. We appreciate you staying up late here and helping us learn about this stuff. So we appreciate you taking the time.